Hey everyone, welcome back to Nutrition Made Simple, a video series that we created that takes a look at ideas surrounding natural health topics, and then we break them down into easy to understand and actionable steps that you can take. My name's Brian Strickland. I'm joined again today by Ed Jones. He is the founder and owner of Nutrition World. And for the month of March, we've been focusing kind of on gut health related topics, how to keep your gut healthy and happy. And today is no exception to that trend. And we're going to look at some different types of fiber. I think fiber is still somewhat of a little bit of a confusing subject for a lot of people. There are many different types. Cleanliness and quality is an issue when it comes to buying fiber. And we found out that there's actually a lot of food sources that we weren't aware that had such high amounts of fiber. And so we want to talk about that for just a minute as well. So Ed, starting us out, why don't we just do bare basics and talk about what fiber is and some common food sources?
Thank you, Brian. Fiber is extremely important to our longevity and our health. And what is fiber? It's actually a word called roughage. It kind of describes it. It is something that's non-digestible. And why would we want something like that? Well, there's multiple reasons for that. And, before we get into that, I've talked to people for almost 43 years now. And when I kind of get a sense that people aren't getting enough fiber, which is about 90% of Americans, I say, and a lot of these people say, I get enough fiber. I said, well, tell me what you eat for breakfast, lunch, and supper. At the end of that conversation, which is about 2 minutes long, I know pretty well up here, they're getting about 15 grams on average. And most people, to be near optimally healthy, need to shoot for between 30 to 35 grams. And I believe 40 would be ideal. In fact, the countries of the world that are a little bit more primitive and eat more of a natural diet, they're getting about 40 to 50 grams a day, and their health is far superior. Intestinal health is far superior, especially.
Right. So as far as fiber goes, there's a few different types supplementally that we wanted to take a look at. One is hemp, and the other is psyllium husk. And there's a lot of competing information about which is better, which is cleaner, all that jazz. But from our experience, these are two really great options as long as you're purchasing a quality product, and we want to emphasize that part of it. So if you could just tell us a little bit about each of these products, how they differ, and maybe some of the things to look out for when purchasing.
Absolutely, Brian. And there's two terms with fiber. We don't have to know all of it, but insoluble and soluble. And of course, soluble means it dissolves. Insoluble means it doesn't. I tend to prefer insoluble. It creates a much better bowel movement. It cleanses the colon better. It helps to prevent diverticulosis by cleaning out those little pockets. It has an amazing ability on all fronts to probably reduce colon cancer and other colon issues, and hemorrhoids especially, because straining at the stool is awful. We did a podcast on that. So we're looking at fibers. And of course, things like Metamucil are probably the most popular. It's made of psyllium. But you mentioned something that said, find a quality product. Well, most people would think that is. I don't. We did a podcast on the dirty secret of psyllium husk, because all psyllium is grown with a lot of chemicals, not a little, because it's a different kind of regulation of food. You have to get organic if you're going to get it, because psyllium's a good fiber. It really is. It produces bulk. It doesn't mix very well, but that's also why it produces the bulk. So we have to put it in something, stir it up, drink it quickly. Well, hemp is a secondary fiber that I tend to prefer better than any. Why is that? Because it doesn't give gas in most people. Some people have gas with psyllium, whether it be Metamucil or even the organic versions of that. Hemp, which is what I put in my morning breakfast drink, I put a big heaping tablespoon in there. Don't even know what's in there because it's mixed up with all my keto powder and my greens and my cold water. But it gives me a head start on my 35 grams a day. There are days that I think if I had not done the hemp, I would have not reached my goal. And since really getting very disciplined with my fiber, I mean, it's just amazing the happiness that happens down here.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on insoluble versus soluble. Why would someone want to take one or the other? Is there a reason that you would want to take an insoluble over a soluble and vice versa?
Well, a great question. And again, Brian, and I think that the knife and fork is still the most powerful tool we have for our health. I take a lot of supplements. I believe heavily in them, but we have to eat correctly. We have to choose foods from the earth that are less refined and have color to them and have fiber and nutrients. So if you eat extremely well, you probably are getting close to where you need. But there are conditions that people have, like if you have diarrhea, you'd want more soluble fiber, and you can simply look that up to see which forms, and of course they list it on the back of the bottle. If you have IBS, you want insoluble. Well, this hemp has 12 grams of insoluble fiber in their serving. That's a tremendous amount, actually a lot more than psyllium does. And if you're constipated, you want both. You want insoluble and insoluble and soluble.
Yeah. One's acting to help absorb and soak things up in the gut. The other's doing the opposite. So it's a case scenario for which one you want. Let's chat about food sources really quick. You were discussing with me that you were kind of shocked about how much fiber was actually in an avocado.
Yes, Brian, because, when you ask me to do these things, I have to kind of delve back into some of the details. And even though I've done this my whole life, I mean, we still can get a little foggy on certain things. I eat an avocado probably at least every other day because I eat a diet that's leaning on a keto, which is higher protein, higher fat, and less carbs. So I want that healthy fat, and I'll either do olive oil or I'll do some of the healthy fats. But avocado's my mainstay. Had no idea that it has almost 7 grams of fiber in a half of an avocado. That's about what I eat.
Okay.
So right there, 7 grams. Well, I get about 10 grams in my morning drink. There's 17 grams right there. I'm almost halfway home just from those 2 foods. And, the other foods, which are, of course, vegetables and the fruits, the beans, the oats, the nuts, and the seeds, those are the mainstay of fiber. No meat has fiber in it. That's why I try to get about 8, at least 6 vegetables a day in from my lunch and supper, and in my green drink too. So we got to work at it, Brian. This doesn't happen without concise, disciplined effort. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it takes some planning of, okay, my breakfast didn't have any.
Yeah.
Now I got to make it up. How am I going to do that? Well, I think having these as backups are phenomenal.
Okay.
It works. Again, you got to want to, because these don't really mix well, so they're kind of difficult to get down. But I do recommend cold water. You put it on top of the cold water, you stir it, you drink it fast.
Yeah. And what's that number again? The average person should be shooting for how many grams each day?
Well, women need a little bit less. Okay. They need about 28, and men need about 35.
Okay.
That would be the goal to shoot at, and try to do it consistently, not 3 days a week. It's extremely important to maintain this every day.
Right.
And now, I think you'll probably ask me the question, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it before you ask me, is the one thing I tell people constantly: if you're constipated, don't think putting fiber on top of a slow system is going to push it through like a plunger. Right. It won't do that. It's going to go the opposite direction. So I am not about doing this during a crisis of slowness.
Okay. Perfect. I think that about wraps it up. Are there any last things that you wanted to say before we part?
Well, probably if you're doing a lot of meds, try to do 2 hours apart, because fiber can bind with things, connect, and keep them from being absorbed. Now, that's also one reason why, Brian, you'd want to, if you want to maybe have less appetite, do it an hour to 2 before eating foods.
Okay.
Even 30 minutes. It's going to be more filling. But most nutraceuticals are okay with it, but there's a few that actually the vitamins go into the fiber. So I'm kind of like, let's stay an hour away on vitamins, 2 hours away on the pharmaceuticals. And it's magic, because if we put it together, our colon's going to be happy. And the colon is all about our brain chemistry and immune system. So again, we're feeding it. And lastly, one of the best sources, and I know I'm plugging myself here, is the Zunta bar, which has almost 14 grams of fiber in one single bar. And it works extremely well. Now, it also works as a prebiotic. What does that mean? It feeds the good bacteria. If a person has a lot of bad bacteria and you feed a lot of that bad bacteria, you could get gas.
Okay.
But if you're in a pretty good state, the Zunta bar is full of the protein, full of the healthy fats, and low in carbs, and has about at least 1/3 of the fiber you need all day long. So it's a perfect alternative for those who don't want to fool with the mixes.
Awesome. And just for those of you, in case you don't know, the Zunta bar is something that Ed actually developed. It's his bar that he created. It's a great blend of healthy carbs, healthy fats, and of course, fiber. So if you're interested in that, we're going to link all these products in the description so you can find them there. All right. Well, I think that's about it for fiber. Of course, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. We'd love for you to like and subscribe, turn on notifications. That really helps us get the word out. But also, you'll be sure to not miss out on any of the videos that we're producing. So thank you so much for watching. We really hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time on Nutrition Made Simple.
Thank you very much.